This is Cast of Wonders, the young adult fiction podcast featuring stories of the fantastic. Welcome. Episode 327 for October 14th, 2018. I'm Alexis Goebel, your friendly neighborhood co-assistant editor. Our story this week is Memories of Mirrored Worlds by Barbara A. Barnett, first published in Daily Science Fiction, July 5th, 2013. Barbara A. Barnett is a writer, musician, orchestra librarian, Odyssey Writing Workshop graduate, coffee addict, wine lover, and all-around geek. Her short fiction has appeared in publications such as Beneath Ceaseless Skies, Lady Churchill's Rosebud Wristlet, Orson Scott Card's Intergalactic Medicine Show, Daily Science Fiction, and Flash Fiction Online. Barbara lurks about the Philadelphia area, where she lives with her husband and a pantsless stuffed monkey named Super Great. You can follow her online or on Twitter. S.B. Divya is a lover of science, math, fiction, and the Oxford comma. Her novella Runtime is a Nebula Award finalist, and her short stories have been published at various magazines, including Apex, Uncanny, and Tor.com. She co-edits the Hugo Award-nominated podcast Escape Pod with Mur Lafferty. You can find her on Twitter at Divya's Tweets, or the web at www.eff-words.com. And now, we've a tale to tell.
Memories of Mirrored Worlds by Barbara A. Barnett. Narrated by S.B. Divya. At midnight on her 9th birthday, Allison Marie was crowned Queen of the Nightlands. She decreed that flowers should glow in the dark, and that bats should dine with her at supper. At midnight on her 10th birthday, she was named Keeper of the Secret Word, which she whispered to her trusted steed, a giant frog who galloped through the moors. On her 11th birthday, Allison Marie was worshipped as goddess of the sky. She spread her dragon wings each night and breathed the stars to life with fire. But at midnight on her 12th birthday, Allison Marie became the daughter of a widowed man, and she made no more visits to her other lives. There is no memory in those worlds, she thought as she touched the cold, papery cheek of her mother's body. And so I shall remain in this world and be a servant of death, like all of the others who do not dwell in the mirrored worlds, a strange voice said. The voice had no source that Allison Marie could find, for the people around her did not talk of magical realms. They did not speak with the cadence of a butterfly's flight. They filled the funeral parlor with floral-scented death and spoke of memories and such an unfortunate accident for one so young. I don't expect you to stay, another voice said to Allison Marie. This voice she knew, the man she was told to call father. He reached over her into the casket and fingered the mirrored brooch at her mother's neck. He turned the brooch this way and that, casting plays of light across the wall, across the ceiling, across the corpse. The light tinkled with a music only Allison Marie could hear, and she realized now where that other fluttering voice had come from. I never should have pulled your mother from the mirror, the man she was told to call father said before skulking away. There came a flash of motion in the mirrored brooch, then a voice that billowed and floated like wings made of clouds. He has set you free, so make your decree. Which world shall Her Majesty reign in first, Her Majesty, Allison Marie? This is the only world there is, Allison Marie said, stroking a finger over her mother's too-still hand. For I would forget her in any world but this. At midnight on her 16th birthday, a stranger arrived at Allison Marie's sleepover party, uninvited, in the bathroom mirror. Where Allison Marie's reflection should have been, the stranger twirled, a rainbow-colored twist of phosphorescent braids and gossamer fairy wings. The mirrored world stretched for miles beyond her, showing no likeness to the bathroom's monogrammed towels and knick-knack-littered shelves, but rather a field of purple grass and mushrooms that batted their large round eyes. For a moment that stretched as long as the mirror world was deep, Allison Marie stared, transfixed, and a little bit frightened at the way her heart beat in time with the stranger's dancing. She had not summoned this vision. Sometimes the mirrored worlds whispered to her, as they had at her mother's funeral, but they had never come unbidden, not until now. "You have to leave," Allison Marie said to the stranger, quietly, so that her friends in the other room would not hear. "You're not invited." "And you are not a servant of death!" The stranger's voice rang like crystal, too loud. "Be quiet," Allison Marie whispered, her eyes darting toward the door so quickly that she thought they might tear themselves from their sockets and continue on without her. A burst of giggles, strangely leaden, sounded from the other room. Had they heard? Did they think she had retreated to the bathroom to hold court with her invisible friends? Allison Marie's cheeks flashed hot. In the mirror, the mushrooms burst into flames. Their eyes melted into white goo that drizzled down their charring stems. A scent like rubber bands and fire wafted from the mirror. The mushrooms screamed, and Allison Marie did too. "Allie?" came a tittering voice from the other room. "A bug," Allison Marie said quickly. "A really big spider." Yet no words or quickness could banish the unwanted remembrance, the memory of taunting that smothered her thoughts. Allie Marie who sings to herself, Allie Marie who's never quite there, Allie Marie who talks with the mirrors. What world has she gone to this time? The songs would start again. They would start singing the songs again, and she would never belong where her mother had brought her. The stranger stretched her hand through the mirror. The glass rippled and fell around her diaphanous wrist like the sleeve of a satin gown. Return. The word buzzed through Allison Marie's thoughts. It coursed through her body like electrified blood. Dance through the lands where all will be as you decree. Ride your trusted toad and live forever and be queen of the Nightlands once more. No! Allison Marie threw open the bathroom door. It struck the wall, crashed like her fear. All was quiet in the other room, but not because of her frenzied arrival. Her friends were staring at the man she was told to call father, who in turn stared at Allison Marie, who in turn hated herself for drawing him there with her scream. "Why do you stay?" he asked. "Why should I go?" Allison Marie replied. Each dared not answer the other's question, for they knew their reasons all too well. His look was a battle that said, "Go and stay," and "I want to forget," all in one breath. But Allison Marie refused to let all memory of her mother fall into the oblivion of the mirrored worlds. At midnight on her 21st birthday, Allison Marie spied 1,000 strangers in the street-side puddles. Bulbous, misshapen dwarves who drifted through a silken fog of dark, the stars twinkling in their hair. Allison Marie hurried faster, her umbrella catching in the wind. She tried not to look, but the puddles were everywhere. They did not reflect the city lights, nor show the slightest pucker as the raindrops struck. Their mirrored world was one where the floating dwarfs bounced off each other with a gentle ping. "Come play with us," the dwarves called in a chorus of childlike voices. Ping, ping, ping they went, leaving Allison Marie drenched in the tintinnabulous sound. The dwarves were louder than the rain, louder than the honking cars and the chatter in the clubs and the alley bars. Their pings rang in Allison Marie's head until her teeth ached. She dared not step on the puddles, lest she fall into their world. "Play with us," their calls continued. "We will bound through the night and collect the stars in our hair until at last the dawn arrives." For a moment, Allison Marie saw it. Herself, bulbous and misshapen, the stars tangled in her hair, her voice, one of innocence and abandon. She was not as she had been earlier, a slim, sweaty body pressed among so many others, trying desperately to dance to the beat of cacophonous, synth-colored music. Awkward, because she did not feel the same pull, because the inevitability of death did not suffuse her every motion. Death would accept her service, reluctantly as it had her mother's, but death did not crave it. Her foot hovered above a puddle, buoyed by indecision, close enough to feel the ping of a dwarf against her spike-tipped heel. The touch reverberated up her leg. Her body pulsed in response, wanting to twist and shift and morph if only she'd just let go. Thoughts cascaded from her mind, a waterfall of memory, more sensuous than any lover's touch, this promise to burst into a new, forgetful form. A lover, she remembered. Her mother had one, a servant of death, the man she was told to call father. He had pulled her mother from the mirror, and her mother in turn had pulled Allison Marie. Again and again and again she pulled, so that Allison Marie was a queen by day, among death's servants by supper. But there would be no one to pull her back this time. The man she was told to call father had made that clear. A yank of her foot, and Allison Marie was stumbling backwards. A clatter of her umbrella, and then pain, blessed pain, as she fell upon the pavement. Her body soaked in the pain as her clothing soaked in the rain. She clapped her hands over her ears, as if to hold in the memories that her other lives threatened to drain from her. How could she forget the woman who had never once forgotten her? At midnight on her 30th birthday, while Allison Marie sat writing in a mirrorless room, a new stranger appeared in her cup of tea. This stranger did not dance, but rippled on the tea's surface, shimmering like a slick of rainbow-infused oil, staring up at Allison Marie with eyes that were round and owlish and an inhuman shade of pink. "Fly with me," he said. His words drifted up on the steam rising from the tea. Allison Marie could not help but inhale them. They smelled of sugar and feathered down. They caressed their way through her, stirring warmth and longing for the worlds beyond her reflection. "Will you not fly with me?" A tiny hand with a coat of pink and white feathers rose from the steaming liquid, untouched by the heat or the slightest trickle of dampness, as dry as Allison Marie's mouth had gone. "Leave me be," she said. The words sounded weak, so like her death-servant's body, so unlike her memories. "Let me remember her." "And when you die, who will remember you?" No one, she realized. Every day she flailed and she groped and she scraped her hands raw against the promise of love. But she had never learned to make her way in this world as her mother had. The stranger in the tea chuckled. He knew. He knew her for what she was, a fleshy, mortal bag of loneliness and grief, of desolation and unfilled yearnings. And he sang, Allie Marie who sings to herself, Allie Marie who's never quite there, Allie Marie who talks with the mirrors. What world has she gone to this time? Allison Marie shoved his winged hand back into the tea. She shook the mug hard, and his image drowned in a swirl of chamomile. but the memory of him, the lingering scent of sticky, sugar-sweetened words, trickled over the lip of the mug and down her hand. Allison Marie returned to her writing without washing her hands. As it neared midnight on her 50th birthday, Allison Marie removed the dust-bathed shroud from the only mirror she owned. For the first time in her mortal life, she recognized her reflection in all those strangers. All at once, she was luminous and dancing, squat and bulbous, winged and owlish. And she was not alone. A 12-year-old girl sat at Allison Marie's antiquated roll-top writing desk. Kara, the daughter of a son of the man she was told to call father. "My favorite is the one about riding the toad through the moors," Kara said, chittering like a cricket as she flipped through the pages of Allison Marie's book. Her stick-like figures brushed against memory after memory. "All the other girls at school say they want a pony, but I want a frog steed." Kara had shown up on Allison Marie's row house doorstep earlier that evening, wanting to meet the estranged aunt who wrote that book she loved oh so much. Allison Marie thought it strange that the girl was out so late, but it was no matter. Her time for telling Kara more about bats and moors and toads was almost at an end. "Have your friends read the book?" Allison Marie asked. Kara froze, the next page only half turned. Her expression darkened into one Allison Marie recognized all too well: loneliness. "I don't really have friends, but yeah, people read it. It's pretty popular." Allison Marie smiled. That was what she needed to hear. They read it. They knew how a little girl once forgot this world and sailed along rivers that flowed uphill, yet always returned to find memories of her mortal life waiting, ready to leap on her with the loyalty and overeagerness of the favorite family dog. They knew about her mother, and they knew about her. They can remember what I cannot, Allison Marie thought, in death or any other realm. In the mirror, an impish, wrinkled woman smiled back at her. Paper-thin skin pulsed with 1,000 possible forms. Allison Marie grabbed hold of the mirror's gilded frame, ready to pull herself through. Her fingers stretched and plunged into the glass, lengthening their way into some new world to explore. What reason was there now to resist? "My grandfather told my dad he shouldn't let me read your book," Kara said, finally turning the next page. "But it's nice to escape, you know? And it's not like my dad really cares what I read. He barely noticed when I walked out the door tonight." Allison Marie yanked her hands away from the mirror. Her fingers cramped at their abrupt return to human shape. Despite the pain, Allison Marie turned toward Kara. She had never heard so much despondency in a voice so young. "What about your mother?" "What about her?" Kara's gaze remained fixed on the book, her countenance so plaintive that Allison Marie suspected the girl was seeing far beyond the crinkled pages. "She took off when I was a kid." Allison Marie ached to hear those last words, spoken as if Kara were so very old at only 12. For all of her own loneliness as a child, Allison Marie had at least found joy for a short time in her mirrored worlds and a mother with patience to match their magic. Her mother, a servant of death even at the end. Allison Marie took Kara by the hand and led her toward the mirror. "Touch the glass." Kara regarded her with a skeptical quirk of her lips, but obliged nonetheless. Nothing. Skin rested against a mirror as solid as any other, leaving only smudges and fingerprints. Allison Marie feared the chance had passed. "Okay, so what's—" Kara cut off with a gasp. The glass enveloped her fingers, pooling around them like silken water. Glitter-coated hands reached out for her. Kara gaped, awestruck. Her own skin began to glitter in response. "Go ahead," Allison Marie said, helping Kara climb into the mirror. "It's time you rode a frog steed of your own." And so, at midnight on her 50th birthday, Allison Marie stayed behind as a servant of death, waiting to pull another from the mirrored worlds.
I recently had the great pleasure of watching The Babadook for the first time. It was the most evocative portrayal of grief I've seen in a horror film. I think it worked so well for me because that's what grief can feel like. A huge monster that hides in the shadows, attacking when you're most vulnerable, growing stronger the more you try to pretend it isn't there, until it eventually consumes you. Living with uncounseled emotional or mental health problems is crippling. It seeps into everything you do in 1,000 insidious ways. It's a choose-your-own-adventure of suck, where no matter how many times you sneak a peek ahead, every page seems to end in go back. And that's a damn hard cycle to break. Today's protagonist was haunted by an awful emotional stink stew, made of fear of losing her mother's memory, longing for the carefree life of adventure she'd known as a child, and that all-too-familiar adult guilt of wanting something that's just for you. It followed her most of her life. She couldn't break the cycle. In the end, Allison Marie did the next best thing anyone who's suffered so long can do. She found peace and closure by showing someone else the way. I'll leave you with that excellent final line again, and like the best kind of word magic, it gathers the entire story back in on itself in a beautiful package that was a pleasure to be a small part of. And so, at midnight on her 50th birthday, Allison Marie stayed behind as a servant of death, waiting to pull another from the mirrored worlds. Please join us next week for Ava Paints the Horses by Ville Merlainen. We love bringing you the best audio fiction week after week, but we can't do it without your support. Your donations pay our authors, our narrators, our servers, and our staff. Please consider supporting us with a monthly donation through either PayPal or Patreon. You can also review us on iTunes, request us on Spotify, and consider the stories we publish for award consideration. There are lots of ways you can help. Join the discussion on the EA forum, forum.escapeartist.net, or visit us on Twitter at Cast of Wonders. Come say hello. Cast of Wonders is a production of Escape Artist Incorporated and is brought to you by Assistant Editors Catherine Inskip and Alexis Goebel, Associate Editors Tanya Vespalco, Amy Brennan, Alicia Caparoso, Trace Von Til, William Heitminer, Andrew Cahoe, Sean Proctor, Ray O, Susie Rodriguez, Carissa Sluss, Emma Smales, and Chris Tang. Audio producer Jeremy Carter, community manager Danny Daly, and our editor Marguerite Kenner. Our episodes are released under the Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. That means you can download or listen to the episode on any device you like, but you can't change it or sell it. Our theme music, Appeal to Heavens, is by Alexi Nav and available from Promo DJ or his Facebook page. Thanks for listening.